They finally did it. They said his name. But that's not even the best or most insightful part of this episode. What's going on, Marvelites? Today we are talking about episode 3 of Agatha All Along. And let me just say, if you couldn't tell from the title, I think this show is really different from your typical MCU show, and in a really good and awesome way. I believe that one of the most intriguing aspects to this show is its really combination of different genres within one show that really hasn't been done, with the exception of WandaVision, into one MCU TV show. Most of them are typical superhero comic book tropes for the most part. This is just a little bit different, where it kind of mixes mystery, horror, and really well, honestly, comedy. And again, it's very similar to WandaVision. And WandaVision was well accepted and liked by a lot of folks. I would expect some sort of similarity between these two shows now that they're supposedly in this trilogy with, some Vision show coming up in the future, and also the fact that they had the same showrunner of Jack Schaefer. But I don't really remember that much comedy or comedic relief within WandaVision either, as opposed to this. And I mean, most of that comedic relief comes from Kathryn Hahn. It really comes from everyone, but Kathryn Hahn, her comedic stings, her quips, her little one-liners, I think just need to be studied, with her facial expressions and her acting. They're just so good. And that's not to say that anyone else isn't doing great on the show, because you can tell that there's so much chemistry between this group of actors on this show. It's absolutely amazing. You can even see how much fun that they're having. Ali An posted this behind the scenes when they were getting their swollen faces all put on and makeup, and you can just see how much fun that they're having all together. But speaking of the actors within this show, I really think the unsung hero of this episode is Mrs. Hart. I mean, Sharon Davis. Deborah Jo Rupp had such a great episode. This was really not fully about her, but she shined through, I think, more than any of the other actors in this episode. One, she was just a liability at the beginning of The Witch's Road, when she just wandered off and basically almost got eaten. And sucked into quicksand or whatever it was by, not being on the road. Just all of her foreshadowing, her lines that she had that were foreshadowing within the episode, and just all of her one-liners, on the upholstery. I think one of the saddest parts though, her last words were, "Please, Wanda, just let him breathe," or whatever it was. Again, a really good callback, an Easter egg to WandaVision, where they had that dinner party with the Harts, and then Wanda started to, choke Mr. Hart. The fact that she dies at the end of this episode raises the stakes for us as viewers as the show goes on. However, it has been said in an interview with Deborah Jo Rupp, they were asking her, how do you feel about how things went for you? And she said, well, you only saw the first 4 episodes. You gotta wait around and see some more for me. And Deborah Jo Rupp said that she was really happy with her character's arc within this series right now. We clearly haven't seen the end of Mrs. Hart. I do think that there's something else about her. We don't know entirely sure. There's lots of theories going around, but I don't think that we've seen the end of her. One of the other things that is making this show so good in relation to The Witch's Road and just overall set and atmosphere is that everything on the set is done naturally. There's no CGI on the set, and while CGI can be great, and WandaVision had a lot of actual sets and whatnot, but they also used a fair amount of CGI. And now actually, as I rewatch previous clips, some of the CGI with Agatha going up against Wanda and using their magic, I'm just this is kind of not great. But the other thing that I'll say about The Witch's Road is they have some really good inspiration from the comics. Now, most of The Witch's Road, it basically started with the Scarlet Witch solo run in 2015 when it first appeared in issue number 4, and was in some other issues. I forget the numbers. I want to say it was 13, 14 of that run. But we learned that The Witch's Road changes as it's going through, right? We only saw the beginning of this episode of what it looked like, that it was just perpetually dark and kind of spooky, and then eventually that house appeared with, glowing, and the road was going to continuously change as they continue to go down it. And we kind of know that already from the trials that they're going to end up facing. And that's kind of how it's portrayed in the comics as well. When Wanda and Agatha first go down the Witch's Road together, it's one way in issue 4, and then when they go back and revisit it again, I believe in issue 13, Wanda makes a point of saying like the road looks much different than what we first saw before. I think the other thing that they're doing so well, just kind of like drawing inspiration from the comics, is that, you know, we know that the trials that they're going to face are going to be their biggest fears, and that's what they're going to have to face to get what they want at the end of the road. And now we saw some insight into that in this episode, right? Jennifer, she wants to be unbound, essentially, to have her powers back. And I'm assuming that, like, creepy guy that we saw that tried to drown her had to do something with taking her powers away. I don't know much if that's a related character to the comics. I don't believe it is. I'm just waiting, honestly, for Man-Thing to show up for Jennifer at some point, or maybe just like a hint to Man-Thing at some point that he exists. I think that would be great. Lilia has something to do with her past. Again, she's like hundreds of years old of a Sicilian witch, basically. So this has to draw back from somewhere in Italy. You know, she spoke Italian after when she saw Agatha as she was like coming out, almost out of her hallucination, and just the way that those people were dressed, or at least that one girl was dressed. The most connected thing from the comics is Alice's mom in the comics was really the protector of Hong Kong, and she was not a singer-songwriter like she is in the show, but she was murdered, and Alice basically spent her time just trying to get revenge and figure out who killed her in issue 7? It's in that Scarlet Witch run. Again, I believe it's issue 7, which is exactly the same kind of line of what this Alice in this show wants. I think these hallucinations are going to keep showing up in the future, just giving us more insight into that past and into each of the witch's biggest fears. And there was that first exchange between Jennifer and Teen where it was implied that, one, Mephisto exists in the MCU. Congratulations, Eric Voss from New Rockstars. You can finally make a video. This is the first time his name's ever been mentioned, I believe, but he has been hinted at in the only other time, I believe, was in She-Hulk, when Madison was like taken away to a demonic dimension and then brought back, and she was on trial, and basically alluded to the fact that she made a deal with what we're assuming was Mephisto. And the other big thing between that conversation was that we learned that it is believed that Agatha traded her son, Nicholas Scratch, to get the Darkhold. And then later in the episode, we get that hallucination that Agatha has where she looks like she's going to go save her son from that crib. She hears that baby crying. She believes it's him probably. And as she turns it open, it's the Darkhold. Right? Again, what she supposedly exchanged it for. I believe that's alluding to the fact that she really did do it, and I'm assuming that she did, given the fact that she didn't even want to tell anyone about it. And a lot of people are still assuming that Teen is Nicholas Scratch, which in theory he could be. I'm still strongly in the camp that Teen is Billy Kaplan or Wiccan, Wanda's reincarnated son, but Nicholas Scratch is maybe working through him. It was implied that between the conversation with Teen and Jennifer was hinting that Teen is Nicholas Scratch, and then someone else in the episode, I believe, said she wouldn't even know it if her son showed up at her front door, right? Which is exactly what kind of happened with Teen. I think all those things are just kind of leading us astray to believe that Teen is Nicholas Scratch when he really is Billy. I think the other big thing that we're gonna see in later episodes is Lilia said a few different kind of like random lines when something was like working through her or she was hallucinating. The biggest one was like, we gotta save Agatha, or whatever it was, something along those lines about saving Agatha. The other one, when they got like all of their faces kind of exploded and became swollen, she said she was just kind of staring weirdly at everyone, was just like, I love you guys. And it was kind of like an awkward silence afterwards. We're going to see those lines in later episodes, not necessarily said from Lilia, but potentially from someone else within the Coven. It's going to be interesting to see how they show up and where and in what context they're going to be. The other callback to the comics that I really like, or I thought was a really great moment in this episode, was when time was running out. Jennifer was like freaking out of like the last thing that she needed to put into the potion, and Agatha takes her aside and really becomes a leader in that moment and says, basically, Jen, you can do this. Even though you don't have your power, you still have your knowledge and no one can take that away from you. I think that is really like a good ode to like what Agatha actually is in the comic. She is a mentor to witches and wizards, warlocks, whatever have you, for the most part. Like, she's not necessarily a bad guy or a villain in the comics. She's actually more of a mentor. In fact, she mentored Scarlet Witch in the comics. And I really like that they kind of like portrayed her as that leader, mentor in that moment. I'm loving this show. I think it's just something so different and in a really, really good way. I hope that you are enjoying it as much as I am. Let me know your thoughts, theories, speculations, everything down below in the comments. If you want to be part of a great Marvel community and you want more Marvel content just like this, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button down below as well. And until the next video, Excelsior.